Hello and welcome back to All About Community. Again, my name is Robert L. Harris, and when we went to break, I was talking with the former mayor of this great city of Oakland, Elihu Harris, who has some outstanding comments to make. And Mayor Harris, we elected for the first time in the history of Alameda County a black person as the district attorney. Any thoughts about the new district attorney, who is Pamela Price, and some of the challenges that she may be facing?
I think the biggest challenge that District Attorney Price is going to have is finding the balance between social justice and dealing with violent crime. Those things are often juxtaposed because we have people who, quite frankly, do not respect the law, who don't even deserve a second chance because they've been doing these things for sometimes decades. And we have to get away from the acceptance of violence. We're not going to squeal. We're not going to talk about the people who are doing these things. They destroy the quality of life. They destroy life. And I think, quite frankly, she's going to have to step up and make violent crime a real center point of her agenda, not just trying to find alternative incarceration, but locking some people up.
So you're suggesting that more people be locked up? Oh, Mayor Harris.
The violent criminals need to be locked up. Remember the famous Richard Pryor quote, "Thank God for penitentiary."
Yeah.
There are people who, quite frankly, are not fit to live in civil society. I'm not saying there are many of them. There's probably only 400 people in the entire city. But you can't let 400 people define 400,000. And I really believe you've got to clean up the city. You've got to get rid of these violent people. They have a choice. No one makes you violent. You make yourself violent. I don't have any acceptance or tolerance for people who perpetuate violence against young people, against women, or against anyone who, quite frankly, is not violent in return. Self-defense is one thing. We're not talking about self-defense. We're talking about murderers.
So the DA, as you know, has influence on incarceration. What do you think can be or should be done when it comes to our juveniles? The incarceration rate for juveniles has gone down here in Alameda County from 500 or 600 to about 50 some during the past several years. What kinds of programs do you think the new DA ought to be engaged in to ensure that this continues?
First of all, the difference between violent and nonviolent perpetrators of crime. There are some people who are out doing, riding along in sideshows. The other people who are doing petty shoplifting crimes. I think you've got to give people alternatives. It could be education. It could be mental health. It could be drug addiction therapy. It could be any number of things. I don't think incarceration ought to be, by any means, a primary choice or the first choice when it comes to how we deal with people who are offenders. But I do believe that there are people who are violent, even young people who are violent, who have already made their determination in their life that violence is about the weak. You're either going to be a predator or a prey. If someone's determined they're going to be a predator, you at least have to remove them until they can be rehabilitated or that behavior can be correction. You can't just turn them loose on a civil community and allow them to do their damage. I believe that those distinctions have to be made, and the DA should have a process by which you determine whether or not someone can be given the alternative to incarceration or someone actually needs to be set aside from the rest of society until that behavior can either be corrected either by age or by changing behavior.
What about prosecutorial discretion? How do you think that should play in terms of deciding who to prosecute?
I think part of it has got to be consistency. You can't have a double standard like race or gender or any of those kind of circumstances. There ought to be psychologists involved if that's part of the issue. It may be mentoring may be involved. I think you have to look at every alternative, and everyone needs to be treated as an individual. And then I think you have to look at categories. Violent people, again, are different than people who just seem to be running across the law. We used to have people who were drug abusers. They weren't necessarily violent or hurting anyone other than themselves. We call them victimless crimes, people involved in prostitution. Now you have people who are actually robbing people at gunpoint. You have people actually shooting people who are being robbed. I think we have to look at these categories of crime and really understand the damage that they're doing to their neighbors, to their family members, and to strangers. That can't be tolerated. There's got to be a zero tolerance for violent crime in any community.
Now, what about the staffing of the DA's office? How important is it to strategically ensure that you have the right staff members in that department?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to have partnerships. The entire public sector has to be a partner with the district attorney. It's not just about enforcing criminal law. It's also about dealing with social work, about mental health. It's about making sure you understand all the different things that cause crime and putting all those tools to work with the district attorney in deciding which cases have to be dealt with in which way. So I really think the DA has got to be a center point for social justice as well as justice, and understanding all the tools that are available in the public sector to minimize, again, criminal activity, but also inappropriate consequences for people who are being incarcerated when there could be better alternatives.
And how important is it for all of the people in Alameda County to work with the DA to try to make certain that this is a better and safer place?
I think the DA is one of the most important political positions or public positions, certainly in any county or in any state. We have to make sure that the DA is accessible and listening, but also that the DA is being creative. These are not easy solutions. It's one of the most difficult offices that anyone could hold, but you gotta be about justice, you gotta be at social justice, but you also gotta be about protecting the public. Public safety, I believe, is the first obligation of the district attorney.
Public safety is the first consideration for the district attorney. Mr. Mayor, I agree with that 100%. And if our current DA, I should say, if the DA, Pamela Price, does that, she will be a shero of this community.
And I hope that's her agenda. It's got to be. If she really wants to make an effective position that she holds, she's really going to not only enforce the law, but she's going to do it in a balanced way.
And we will be right back with All About Community. Again, my name is Robert L. Harris, and my guest is Mayor Elihu Harris. We will be right back with All About Community.